Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a question that might sound strange at first, but could completely change the way you think about mythology, religion, and even reality itself. Is God a dragon? Now, before you dismiss this as fantasy or pure speculation, hear me out. Dragons have appeared in religious texts, mythologies, and esoteric traditions for thousands of years, and their symbolism is often tied to power, wisdom, and even divinity. Could it be that ancient people saw dragons as manifestations of the divine? Or perhaps even that the idea of God itself was once associated with the image of a dragon? But that's exactly what we're going to explore today from religious, esoteric, and literal perspectives. Let's start with the most obvious place religious texts. Most monotheistic religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, describe God as a formless, omnipotent being. God is often portrayed as existing beyond human comprehension, a force that created and sustains the universe. But interestingly enough, religious texts do mention dragons. In the Bible, especially the Old Testament, we find references to creatures that resemble dragons or serpents. One of the most famous is Leviathan, described in the book of Job. Leviathan is a massive sea monster, a creature so powerful that only God Himself can tame it. Listen to this passage from Job 41. Can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook or tie down its tongue with a rope? Can you put a cord through its nose or pierce its jaw with a hook? Its snorting throws out flashes of light. Its eyes are like rays of dawn. Flames stream from its mouth. Sparks of fire shoot out. That sure sounds a lot like a dragon, doesn't it? Now, some scholars believe Leviathan represents chaos or evil, while others argue that it symbolizes God's raw power over creation. In some interpretations, Leviathan isn't just a monster, it's a being that exists outside human control, a reminder of the divine supremacy. Then there's the book of Revelation, which describes a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns. This dragon is often associated with Satan, the great deceiver, but the fact that dragon imagery appears in apocalyptic prophecy shows how deep this symbolism runs. If dragons represent destruction and power, could they also represent divine forces? Now, let's move outside the Bible. In Hinduism, dragons or dragon like beings also play a role. The serpent dragon Vasuki is wrapped around Mount Meru in Hindu cosmology and is used by the gods to churn the ocean of milk to create the nectar of immortality. Could this be another example of a dragon as a force of creation rather than destruction? And what about in Islam? While dragons aren't directly mentioned, we do see powerful creatures like the Buraq, the winged steed that carried the Prophet Muhammad during the night journey. Some interpretations even link mythical beings in Islamic traditions to earlier dragon myths from Mesopotamia and Persia. Now let's step into the world of esoteric traditions. Across many mystical schools of thought, Gnosticism, Hermeticism, and alchemy, dragons are seen as powerful symbols not just of destruction but of wisdom, transformation, and enlightenment. Take the Ouroboros, for example, the image of a dragon or serpent eating its own tail. This symbol appears in Egyptian, Greek, and even Norse traditions, representing eternity, the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. Some esoteric traditions believe that God, or the divine force of the universe, exists in an eternal cycle of creation and destruction, just like the Ouroboros. In Gnostic texts, the idea of a divine being that holds secret knowledge is a recurring theme. Some esoteric scholars argue that dragons, rather than being purely malevolent creatures, are actually guardians of sacred knowledge. They sit at the edges of reality, protecting the deepest truths of the cosmos. This idea exists in Eastern traditions as well. Think about how dragons in Chinese mythology are seen as wise, celestial beings rather than evil monsters. And speaking of the East, Taoism describes the balance of forces, yin and yang, much like the dual nature of dragons in myths. In some interpretations, the dragon is not just a beast, but a symbol of the divine forces at play in the universe. Could this mean that the image of God as a dragon is just another way of understanding cosmic power? Okay, now let's step away from symbols and metaphors. Let's ask the question, could God literally be a dragon? Now, this depends on how we define God. If we're talking about an omniscient, omnipotent being, then we'd have to ask, why would such a being choose to appear as a dragon? Or did ancient people see something they interpreted as divine and then described it as a dragon? Some researchers believe that dragon myths came from real world encounters with giant reptiles or even fossilized remains of dinosaurs. Imagine an ancient civilization stumbling upon the bones of a massive Tyrannosaurus rex or pterosaur. With no specific scientific framework to understand it, what would they think? Perhaps they saw these massive creatures as evidence of gods or divine beings. There's also the argument that dragon legends could come from encounters with large living reptiles. Think about it, crocodiles, Komodo dragons, and massive snakes have all been feared and respected by cultures around the world. If early humans encountered a massive, powerful reptile, it wouldn't be surprising if they associated it with divine power. And then there's the theory that if extraterrestrial beings influenced early human civilization, they may have taken forms that resembled dragons. Some ancient astronaut theorists suggest that depictions of dragon like beings in early art could actually represent the powerful non human entities, perhaps even beings that ancient humans mistook for gods. So, is God a dragon? Well, the religious perspective suggests that God isn't literally a dragon, but that dragon like imagery has been used to describe divine and chaotic forces. Esoteric traditions, on the other hand, suggest that dragons are symbols of wisdom, hidden knowledge, and the eternal nature of reality. And from a literal perspective, the idea of dragons as divine beings could be based on real encounters with massive reptiles, fossils, or even something more mysterious. Ultimately, whether or not you believe God is a dragon comes down to how you interpret mythology, scripture, and the symbols that have shaped human civilization. But one thing is for sure, dragons have been with us for millennia, and their connection to power, divinity, and the unknown isn't going away anytime soon. So now I turn it over to you. What do you think? Do dragons represent divine power? Could ancient people have witnessed something they mistook for gods? Or is this all just symbolic? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more mind blowing content like this. And until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and stay curious. Thank you.